There's a lot of information out there right now. I think just about everyone who's involved in the spiritual community and this kind of work, we are all experiencing what's happening with what was referred to even by the Incan and Andean shamans as the Great Awakening. We are now in this time. I'm just going to pick up from that starting point that everyone's aware of this because I'm seeing and hearing from a lot of people all kinds of different perspectives. And of course, no one is an authority on this. We're all experiencing, it's all mysterious, and the exact logistics of the way the whole thing is going to work is unknown to everyone, even the highest of the high. It's the path that humans end up taking will determine exactly how it happens. So I have some practical information to perhaps fill in some of the gaps that I'm seeing in the more loud and popular voices out there that are very helpful. And it is interesting to see all the range of perspectives and possibilities about it. And so I just want to share from my information and my research about this, uh, what I see. And I'm going to be doing these ascension talks regularly. If you're interested to join in for even deeper techniques and practical experiences, I have a Patreon group for the ascension talks every week. The link is in the description. So, in my morning meditation practice, every day I activate my MerKaBa, and that's number one in this shift that's happening. And I'm not going to call it 5D anymore because it's not accurate. And but that's what it is. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, that's what it is. So the MerKaBa is the vehicle, is a crystalline plasma vehicle around our body. Everyone has one. Now, I get most of my information from Drunvalo Melchizadeck. Okay, and he did several very enlightening, informative, and mentally expanding of consciousness and evolution starting long time ago in the 70s. He did all the sacred geometry in the Flower of Life workshops. And he has two books, volume 1 and volume 2, out about that. And so he was really formative in the early days of helping people understand the universal workings. For one thing, he's a walk-in. He is a Melchizadeck entity walked in to the body of this man in Sedona, Arizona. And Melchizadeck is the high, high order of source beings, like angelic, of that same quality, that same kind of purity of energy. And his entire soul mission is to help humanity prepare for this consciousness evolution, the great awakening or the great shift. So I also have a shamanic background. If you know my work, I do all manner of shamanic healings, which I found in my own life to be the very most powerful because it goes right to the root, cuts things off where they grew, even past life stuff. It's all stored as imprints in our energy field. So the number one thing to do is to remove, and Drunvalo does this on day one of his workshops. So the last workshop he gave was 2011. It's called Earth Sky Heart Workshop. It's now available on Gaia TV, where you can learn the whole thing, which is the most recent version of the MerKaBa activation. Some of the audio recordings are the older version, which he explains was a synthetic protocol to activate because people's consciousness and heart wasn't aligned in the place where they could just pull it all together. So you had to do all these different hand mudras and light up the rods around your head and all these extraordinary things. But they they were very important to learn about. All right, so where was I? There's so much to say in this. It's going to be a long video, or I might break it into 2 or 3 parts. But I just want to get a lot of it out there because this might provide you the pathway and clarity that you seek. This is my goal because I'm not afraid at all, and I am not concerned so much. It's more, I'm excited. And this is my favorite topic. I've been talking about it for months, if not years. And we're in that time right now because I'm doing it and other people are doing it. We are shifting. Okay, so with that information, you might want to listen more. I hope it's not boring. It's really interesting and fun for me to share some really practical and deeply personal experiences that you can also try on for yourself. So the first thing is every morning I turn on my MerKaBa. Like first thing, I get up and I go outside and or sit in the place where I meditate usually and do this. The way you can learn about it is from Drunvalo, Melchizadeck, and Earth Sky Heart Workshop. He's also got volume 3 and 4 that he's coming out with hopefully soon because with the latest information. And so let's see, I got some notes in front of me to help me stay on track. But that's the gist of it. Like this is happening. Um, According to Drunvalo, here's everything I know from his last time of information. But like I said, he's got a new volume 3 and 4 of the Flower of Life coming out with all this new information. But the way it stands is, yes, there's going to be a burst of light. And that is what the Hopi prophecy talks about. You remember that hearing this story about why they have adobe houses, even though nobody really lives in them now. They keep the Hopi reservation with the adobe buildings all made out of nature, nothing synthetic, because it could be that the entire material world dematerializes because it's all a construct of our mind. And so once that false matrix disintegrates, so too could a lot of the buildings and the things that we see, because we're only seeing them because of a collective manifestation of all this stuff. It's pretty difficult to grasp and wrap your mind around. But anyway, go back to the Hopi prophecy. Why, when this happens, they know to get into the adobe buildings, black out the windows. They have already blackout things in place around every window, and not to look outside are the specific instructions, as it's going to be very chaotic, and to do what they know to do in going into sacred space and ascending. So that's why this is really an ascension topic. We are ascending, which is to go up in frequency. Now, the way Drunvalo talks about it is there are different levels, and we're not going to call them dimensions because it's all within the dimension that we're in. There's these, my guides call them spheres of reality. There are different spheres that you'll go to depending on your level of consciousness, the one that's suitable for you. Now, it still looks like Earth because I asked, and this is in a video from a few months back where I channel more information on this. They still look like Earth, but the systems are much more harmonious. There is no lack in many of these realms. So therefore, it's very important, and Melchizadeck talks about this, to be firstly living in your heart, activate your MerKaBa, which is going to protect you from everything. You can't have entities and energies in your field and old trauma stories from this life, from past lives. So healing work is extremely important to lighten your your light body. And all people in the shamanic world know about this. I mean, that's the point of healing, is to keep your physical body in perfect health before the disease manifests, and to remove those emotional imprints that create that, because it's all connected to the chakras. Now, we do have an ego mind identity. I always forget what the I is, and I say ego mind invasion. This is RJ Spina's concept. And I have been reading his newest book, Superconscious, and this is really important. I love some of his information because it also helps fill in the gaps. And so what I saw while I was outside of space-time in the dimension where I go, and I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, I saw the EMI, the ego mind invasion identity that was made. He says it was made by the higher self. I agree with this. And we wear it in the false matrix. We need it here, but outside of space-time, it doesn't exist. So what I saw from out beyond is that when people are moving over, they're going to be dissolving. That ego mind is like, I saw it as a murky brown kind of sullied aura or orb around mainly the head area. And it is going to fall off. It's going to shed and disintegrate as you leave the space and time, as you go outside of space and time, which is into these other higher frequency realms or spheres of reality. But there could be some residue. So part of the work that I do as a healer, and now I know why I've been doing that, all this in this lifetime, training and preparing and doing all my own work on the extremely difficult path of the wounded healer. And so I can help people in every possible situation. I have experienced it too. And this also led me down my own spiritual path. I was born awake. I mean, I do understand people having awakenings, but I always knew this from an early age. I always had my guides talking with me. I always had angelics around me, and I could see through religion. I was brought up in a Catholic and Christian world, but even went to Catholic school because my parents said it was better education, even though they were not religious at all. So it wasn't pushed on me, but I saw it, and I was able to have my own transparent beliefs in around it. And I never bought into it. I really didn't understand any of it. It didn't make sense. So that's where I am with that. Where were we? So the main thing is living in your heart, and Drunvalo talks about this. And there was a wonderful book which I highly recommend reading called Living from the Heart, that will allow you to practice that, because it's not the regular heart, it's not the physical heart. There's another sacred space, often referred to as the tiny place in the heart, and this is a realm that is already outside of space-time, that is already an elevated frequency level, where if your consciousness, if you take it out of your head and literally bring your sphere of consciousness down your neck into your chest, a little over to the left, and you'll feel this tiny vortex, another torus field around the tiny place. So we have a massive torus field, massive energy vortex around our whole body that extends out beyond our arms even. But there's a smaller one inside the tiny place in the heart, this sacred space. So then your consciousness, if you approach it from the back, from behind, and you get swept up into that vortex, and you can see, you just it's very dark, so you need to command your eyes, okay, turn on the lights, and then you can look around. And I'm not going to tell you what's in there because you'll find out. But there is an ancient, ancient text called the Upanishads from India that's 108. You know that magic number. It has a million sacred reasons why that's the special number. It's not only the number of beads on the mala, 108, but it's 108 stories, personal accounts from 108 people on their experience inside the tiny place in the heart. Maybe that interests you to look up and find a copy of the Upanishads. So it's those two things in combination that raises your literal vibration, and your consciousness can expand in total love, in this wider universal love, seeing that we're all fractalizations of Source Creator. And so I remember where I left off and got sidetracked. Manifesting material stuff in these lighter frequencies that we'll be living in is instantaneous. And so Melchizadeck says you're going to have guides, you're going to have like parents who help you, because you're going to be learning how to do everything from that start. So you're going to need to have purity of heart and not money driven or ego. All of that gets dropped. And so people who want to keep that, why, of course, they stay in the 3D realm where that matrix exists. Okay, but for the rest of us who are much more heart-centered, or not even much more, we need to become 100% in the heart at all times, seeing the beauty even in the people we don't like, even in those that don't treat us very well, to see that in their essence, just like in our essence, we are all fractalizations of Source Creator. Now, people will be going to different realms, and so different ones will have different levels of this instant manifestation, but it'll just start appearing right in front of you as you walk. That's why it can be a hell torture place if you're scared. If you arrive and you're full of fear and you still have old stories and traumas and dramas walking with you, around you from this life in the false matrix, they're going to manifest as monsters and horror, and you won't be able to get away from it because it'll just keep rolling one into the next. So the whole thing is to start practicing now this concept of your thoughts rolling into one another from moment to moment to moment. Marina Jacobi talks about this. 1 + 1 = 3. So I love the way that sounds, but it makes total sense. So you have two spheres. Let me find some objects. Oh, I use these stones, medicine stones. So you have two spheres. This is your first thought, and here it comes rolling along, and you're feeling good and you're feeling happy. And then this one is created, and it picks up that good feeling and it keeps carrying on the good feeling. Then that makes the third one, and they're all feeling great. But let's say you're feeling good and it's rolling on, but you had a bad interaction with somebody. Okay, that's down here in the negative. So these are all positive and these are all negative. And then you have conflict. So what's the third one going to be? Whichever was more powerful. And usually we obsess and beat ourselves up and feel bad or guilty or less than so it's probably going to be down here. And that's how you're blocking your ability to keep rolling and flowing into the beauty parts that you do want. So this is vital when we get to the other realms, because they are part of that level of instant manifestation, because the whole premise is in this false matrix in the material world we live in, it's all an illusion. Imagine this is what my guides showed me in one of my recent channelings, is that close your eyes and imagine the four walls around you. Imagine the TV, the ceiling, all of the objects in the room, and they just start turning into dust, molecular dust, and falling and disintegrating. That's what it really is. Somehow, our logic and our mind keeps things physical, so physical that we think it is so real. All right, let's get back to the exciting parts on moving. How do everyone wants to know, when is it going to happen and how do we do it? Well, when is it going to happen? No one can speak to that, even Gaia, because I went and talked with her this morning, like I do many mornings. I talk with the Father Sky, the sun behind the sun, the true central sun, and I speak with Mother Earth, Gaia. And she said today, let me just get my notes going. She said that she agreed. As for spending more, being able to move over into the other realms, she advised to spend more time in that location. It appears right now to be like some kind of spirit journey or astral projection, out of body experience. While you're resting in a daydream, you then go to this other astral plane. Yeah, it's like that, but I find it is a little bit more solid. Okay, let me start at the beginning. First, I asked Gaia, is she really leaving? Because I've been part of the Crimson Circle group for a lot of years. And the Adamus Saint Germain, you might see him on some popular podcasts nowadays. He is a bit audacious, and some things I'm not totally on board with. And one of them is, he says Gaia is leaving and she's not our nurse mother, and humans can now take responsibility for the planet. Okay, this is great. So I asked her about that, and she said she is remaining. It's not her entirety that is leaving, but there is some truth in that. She says she is remaining as a consciousness of the planet, but a larger part of her energy field is leaving to other realms, so she will not be involved directly in the evolution and expansion of life on Earth. Before, she was very much involved, and that's what was so exhausting and tiring. She was directly involved with the energy grids and certain systems that we've all been trapped in, literally, and that Dolores Cannon talks about that. It's, all this is linked. That's why I'm saying, pinpointing where certain information echoes in solidarity with these topics, with these points. And so Gaia says she will only be holding her consciousness for the planet itself. Because that was my big question. If she leaves, then where's the consciousness of the planet as a living entity? You know, it's not just a piece of dead rock. It's alive and breathing because of her consciousness. So yeah, I even saw it like it's kind of funny. Like what she showed me that would make sense to me is like a dolphin brain. Dolphins have the two brains. One keeps them breathing, and the other brain can go to sleep. So they always have the breathing brain, and that's how they are able to die, like suicide, because they can decide to turn off the breath, whereas we can't. because they have a separate breathing brain. That's why if dolphins get really depressed in captivity, and they also deal with a lot of emotional trauma, and especially in human, when they get in relationships with humans in captivity and stuff like that, they can decide to drown by stopping breathing. Anyway, that's sidebar. Gaia is also able to section off her consciousness. And so she will leave the core part of her consciousness within the planet, but she will not be interacting with what goes on with the beings who inhabit the Earth planet, because a larger portion of herself, her consciousness, will be elsewhere and doing other things. So she says to definitely spend more time in the other locations, whatever your location is. So I said, I've been doing that, and I even built a home there many years ago to take up residence. As it was said by one of my shamanic teachers, and he literally said, take up residence in the Hanak Pacha, which is the higher. There are 3 world levels you're familiar with usually in the shamanic arts, and one is the middle world, which is where we live, the lower world, which is the realm of the ancestors, and that's also where I go to do soul retrieval in the Akashic realm. And then there's the Hanak Pacha, the higher world, and this is the realm where Pachacuti lives, and it's like a higher, lighter frequency on a different sphere. They're all on different spheres. The only one is the middle one, which is our 3-dimensional world, physical world. So Pachacuti, Pacha, world, Kuti, turned upside down. We are literally in the time of the world turned upside down. And so I've been going directly to Pachacuti, who is not any gender, but sometimes I say he or she, but it's a genderless being, and very beautiful, like a star being. Now, this is not the Earth Pachacuti, who was a emperor and warrior for the Incas. This is another, what would be considered like a mythological being that they all knew about, and probably the emperor was named after. So I'm talking about the high source being of Pachacuti, who is so loving and an amazing healer. So I go there and get the healing work done on me. So let me finish this, stay on track with the story. So that's the realm of Pachacuti, where we have other lives available to us. Now, this is where it gets real interesting, because Drunvalo says we're all going to reverse back to age 35. So you bring your body with you in the MerKaBa, and when you get there, you start reverse aging. And if you're under 35, you'll age normally, but not past 35. And that you could be completely missing limbs or have diseases and illness, and it is going to reverse. But I think he is talking about the highest spheres of reality, because there are many that are closer to the 3rd dimension, and I don't see the same effect happening. And that's why it's very important, if you want the lighter and most ascended and lightest consciousness level, you can start doing it now, living in the heart and seeing everyone as fractals of God. and just not engaging. Don't engage. If your boss is yelling at you, which is what used to happen to me all the time, you can, it's kind of hard to not engage, but I had to leave my job. I mean, that's how serious I take this, because I could not keep living in a toxic work environment that most of them all create so much stress on us, and we just work our whole time away for those entities, those organizations or corporations or whatever the business is, and those bosses who are pretty much unaware of anything we're talking about right now. So if you are able to leave, do it, because this is the way you can fully step into your expanded awareness and consciousness and in your heart without going to these places and people that constantly get you jangled. And so remember back to the spheres. You're going along great on the weekend, you go back to work and you have a whole chain of negative times when you got all jangled up, and you just constantly, at least that's how it was for me, constant recovery from that all throughout the day, especially once I left there, and all weekend I would go into self-healing. And also I work with a lot of other healers too, and we work on each other. It's really important to keep the energy wellness and the energy hygiene going. But when you're constantly having to reverse what happens because you go to a place that is so toxic and stressful, that really defeats your ability to stay in the beautiful frequencies. It's tough. So that's why the burst of light is like a last call. That's the last call for everyone who isn't already moving over into the different realms. So that's another twist you might not have heard before, that you can start moving over now, and the burst of light, who knows when it's going to happen? I mean, I even heard someone say it could be 10 years from now. And I think that was Bashar. And according to Melchizadeck, because he gave the biggest last Earth Sky Heart workshop in 2011, so right before 2012, and therein he was saying it's all starting now to quicken. I mean, we've been in this literally since 14,000 years ago at the fall of Atlantis. That is when, and this is what Dolores Cannon talks about, and I have personally experienced that method of hypnosis. And I went to the very first time that I came to Earth, and the hypnotherapist was asking me, what did that feel like? What do you look like? And I got to see, and I didn't know much about this when I did the hypnotherapy session. So it was pretty incredible. What I saw matched point for point for all of the research Dolores Cannon has found. And that is Gaia, Earth, called us here. We came is pure energy. I had no physical body at all. I remember where I came in. I remember around when it was in the time of Mu, Mu or Mu, and it was in the Pacific, and it was way before Atlantis. And I came in even before Muse started. And I was able to jump. I jumped in the body of this little crab, like a sand crab, because I did see sand and tall palm trees like that. And I didn't have a body, so I was able to, and I moved into the trees, and I was able to shift and move around. And then also leave. could be kind of boring. There wasn't much going on. And then I could leave because the portal was open. And that's where the Dolores Cannon information comes in. And my hypnosis guide said, yeah, that's how it used to be. We could all come and go. And then it was like a shield, like a dark veil of armor covered the entire Earth planet. And we got trapped here. And at that point, we were starting to have physical bodies. So that's the hardest part for me. Knowing that how long we've been trapped here under that dark, what now we know is a false matrix. So it was put on. And many of the Mu people, well, they overlap. So they also evolved into Lemuria. And Lemuria slightly overlaps with the Atlantean time. So anyway, my experience in Mu is that many of us, including myself, turn into water spirits. And so when you see orbs of light, usually your camera can capture these orbs of light in different sacred sites or inside temples or even over the water is where I see them a lot. And those are all the thousands of water spirits who are here holding the energy and galactic history of Earth in the water. And so in so many of my talks and videos, I talk about blessing your water in the container every morning and even in the shower and all the ways that you use water and give it thanks and send it your love and affection and attention because the water is very much alive and has a voice which we can't hear. So I am like the voice of the voiceless for the water because those are my soul origins. We took to the water, and some did continue to get in the more dense physical bodies and continue on to Lemuria. So yeah, very interesting. There's more on that, but that's another video. This one's getting long already, and I haven't even got to my stories from the other place. Finishing what Gaia said, I said, well, if we're supposed to, or we're encouraged to spend as much time as possible in the other realms, then, or your realm, not visiting all of them, but just, you'll be guided to the one that's right for you by your higher self and your MerKaBa. I said, what about our bodily needs? Because, during this time, we are resting in a chair or we just put our body in relaxation mode in the bed and we're still consciously awake. We're not exactly sleeping. So what about our bodily needs for food and to work to maintain what we do for survival and money in this realm? We can't just leave our body in bed all day and be in the other realm, can we? I said. And she says, no, that's true. She's also not sure exactly how it will work to be completely full-time in the other spheres of reality. That's all yet to be decided how all of this works out. So Drunvalo says we take our bodies. That's what the MerKaBa is for. And the burst of light is the final last call. So if you are currently right now and expanding your consciousness, you can start moving over now. So how to get there in your MerKaBa is a different route than I originally learned. Like I was saying, my shamanic teacher said, and I took it literally, which is a good thing I did because I talked with some other colleagues and they didn't do it to the extent that I was. But I just love that he said, take up residency. Every place has different spherical realms that are embodied and not embodied. So it's not like the Hunuk Pacha doesn't just have one place. Place I go, we do have our bodies, but there are other places that are non-physical, no body. I literally started going there and building a home. And so I go there. I've been going there for years. And I built a crystal garden with these beautiful rose quartz chairs. And I often sit in the garden and just energize in those chairs. Pachacuti always greets me, and we go into this amazing time. He or she will also do healings on me. That's another important factor that I know the healing is needed, because Pachacuti wouldn't be clearing me of all this stuff if I was able to shed it while leaving the space-time dimension density. So this week I went and I met two other people there. Their names are Maria and Kendrick, who are living, well, they said they're living like me in both worlds, and they advise to stay in the new realm as much as possible, and that these spheres of reality are outside of space-time. This is very important, because then that EMI, the emotional mind, oh no, ego mind invading us, your ego mind invasion is not able to exist outside of space and time. So they said also, to help the 3D life, they said you can take back the creation energy from those higher realms. Remember, I told you everything you think manifests in front of you. The material, molecular dust comes together and produces whatever it is. Your favorite sofa, the vegetable garden you need, whatever. And we can take back with us that information and feeling of that creation energy. It will be in our field. And so we can help manifest what we need here in this land of fear, scarcity, and lack. Some people are having an easier time with that, but if you're not, if you're struggling with survival, basic survival, and having the time to really do joyful things and be in your heart and be on a spiritual path without getting jangled up in toxic environments and toxic people every which way you turn, then think about bringing that creation energy back with you. And they said, because my big thing is I'm looking for a place to buy a house, and so I can have a stable environment. I've been moving around for 20 years, literally. A spirit has been moving me every 2 years. The longest I lived anywhere was 5 years, and that was India. And it's been amazing, but it's also very exhausting. And at this point, after COVID, I wasn't able to keep my container shipment moving with me. The prices went up 5 times, crazy, because they could. There's no governing body over the shipping industry. And so they just made their own ludicrous prices. And anyway, I put all my collection of sacred artifacts, and I have collected things, of course, all over India, Indonesia, all these places I've lived that are large, and a lot of artwork too. I'm an artist, so I love beauty. I love collecting things. And in the healing work that I do, I have tons of really special artifacts and curios and things like that. So it's all in storage. And then as a weaver, I have a weaving studio all in storage in the United States, because I left there 20 years ago. And so I need a house to bring these two shipments together and be able to conduct my life from there without taking jobs and moving countries all the time. And so they said, so Maria and Kendrick, the friends in this other realm, they said, sure, buy a house if you want to, or do whatever it is that you desire. So we all have different goals and desires that we think will make our life easier and more harmonious here. They said, sure, go ahead, do those things. They said, it really doesn't matter because you could have or do anything. And I'm going to pause there. Just put that, wear that, put that on as a hat or into your thinking. We can have or do anything here, right now, even with the chaos of the world going on. And so bring that creation energy back with you and set up what you want to, set up what you feel like you need to in this life, but do not, like the Hopi prophecy, black out your world from the news and the chaos and the whatever is going on outside, and you just live your own interior world. So it is, I hear lots of people saying it is about going within. Yes, it is. Absolutely. To the tiny place in the heart. 2 books I referenced for you. One is by Drunvalo Melchizadeck about how to live in the heart, and go directly back to the Upanishads, 108 stories of people who experience living in the tiny place. So, and with my 2 storage units, because, we got to ask what we need to ask and see what other people have for advice, just like we do in this realm. And they said this was really interesting. I mean, this is how I know it's true, because I would never have come up with this myself. They suggested I move the 2 storage units now to that other realm and set up all the decor and all the artifacts and everything, and the weaving studio. And that way it's all done. So when the material matter disappears, I have everything already there. Because if it's here or there, it doesn't matter. The material realm is so fake. Everything we live in is a false matrix. And then I said, well, what do we do there all day? What do we do to occupy ourselves? And at the time we were swimming, because I live by the sea, and there's a big garden and grassy area, and it just goes out to the sea. And so they came over to my house to visit, but they live in the forest area. They love a woodland house and living in the forest. And so we were talking while we were in the sea. Pachacuti connected us. So after he did my healing session, he said, there's 2 people coming over who want to meet you. And that's when I met them and asked them their names. As in terms of what we're going to do there, what are we going to do there? They said, we spend the days having fun and play. Can you believe it? They said there isn't anything specific that we do, because we are coming down from all the hard work in the 3D. Isn't that nice? I just, take a sigh of relief. We are going to be able to play and have fun. And then they joked with me. They said, you have a very large house. They joked. And I said, well, must be expecting a lot of guests. And, but I wasn't sure. I designed the house a long time ago, and I really spend time in the main areas, but I knew there was another long hallway full of rooms. In fact, there's 10 bedrooms. Somehow I just had that when I built it in my creation. So then now it's all clicked together. So why I have so many bedrooms? Because I'm going to be helping people as they enter to remove any remaining heaviness, emotional burdens, and anything from that ego identity so they can integrate better. And which echoes the work I'm doing right now, one-on-one with people. Big storm is here, if you heard that. I'm living on the Black Sea in Georgia, and we get these amazing storms, rainstorms. Okay, so another, as a final story to share with you, about some interesting healing work that if you have listened this long and you are still with me here and enjoying these stories and insights, while I was there, either I asked or Pachacuti suggested that we do healing, because I always go, well, first we started in the music room and we were playing some music, and I asked her to sing in light language because I wanted to learn some of it and hear it from Pachacuti, who is a high frequency being in the first place. And so Pachacuti started singing, and I was playing the glucophone, which is what I have even now in my home. I love that instrument. I have one in A minor, so it's a really pretty angelic sound to begin with. So Pachacuti's singing, and I'm listening and playing. And so after I came back from this encounter, I was able to write down the sounds I heard. And I asked her, what language is this? And it's angelic language. So I made my most recent video, which is called Rite of the Womb. I use ASMR, angelic sound healing, to extract the pain and trauma that we put in our wombs. We just do. It's in the second chakra. And so all that stress and trauma and pain, humans, women store it in, so many women store it in the womb. And do you know how literally deadly that is? So many. And the womb is connected to the thyroid, connected to the heart, the breast, hormones, all of it. So this is vital energy clearing for everyone to do. Please go find that video. I'll link it here at the end notes, at the end cards, for you to click into it. It's a really important one, and it's very short, but you are able to activate it on every new moon, on every dark moon. Okay, so after the music session, I went to the kitchen like I always do. I have a favorite thing I love to make there, which is a fruit ambrosia, I call it. It's fruit with, like a fruit compote, mashed fruit with mineral water, sparkling water. And for me, a big part of my life, all my years, I grew up from an Irish family, and drinking. There's so many alcohol addicts in my family. And I enjoy cocktails for sure, maybe too much, especially when I was in those toxic environments. That was the one way, and even earlier, another one way is through alcohol, and some people drugs, to escape emotional hurt. And so, but I still have a lingering love of fancy cocktails, and maybe too many of them. And so I asked Pachacuti to look at this addiction energy. Do I have any addiction energy? And yes, so yes, I do. She said, from a past life. Because here's the evidence also. I had a very bad, massive eating disorder when I was 15 and 16. So if you've also struggled and battled and overcome eating disorders, or maybe still it's a struggle, because that's one area where I could never go on diets. I just had to let my body do and be whatever it was going to do. And I ate and enjoyed eating, because anything else, I would try and control it and go into that addiction phase, which is really not good, very bad. Because it would take me back into that destructive realm of eating disorders and hating on my looks or my body and pushing it into the womb. That's where we put it. Strangely. Yeah, because it's so detrimental to our health. And Pachacudi did an extraction of the addiction energy in my healing session. And of course, while I'm there, I can stay conscious and ask, what are you doing? How are you removing? And then I use that in my own methodologies too. Of course, they already did match my methodologies because they come from Pachacudi. But there was one thing different that Pachacudi did. So I was able to take note of that. So think about that for yourself. If you have addiction energy from a past life, it will show up now as eating disorders, over drinking, overindulging, things like that. Then that's when Pachacudi said, two people are coming. They want to meet you. And that was Maria and Kendrick. And so I also asked them about, what about friends and family? And they said, because they were together, it looked like as a couple, but I wasn't quite sure. So I asked, and they said, friends and family will likely go into other spheres of reality that match their level of vibration consciousness. And they both lost their partners. They have joined up together now in that realm, they told me. And I asked if they were sad, or feel emotionally hurt from that loss of someone who they loved to be with. And they said the emotions are not as intense and that they're glad they met, they have one another, and it was like any breakup. It is sad and difficult with the loss, but you move on maybe faster when the emotions aren't quite so deep. Of course, pets and children, this is what Drunvalo says, they already know how to do this. So you do not have to worry. It's the adults who need to take care of getting their MerKaBa activated. Families usually do stay together, children and parents and so forth. They usually do end up going on together. Children cannot go inside your MerKaBa. Watch the Earth Sky Heart Workshop. He teaches all this information. But animals, I've already been talking with my cat here. I said, you know what to do, right? And yeah, they know. And they know it's coming. They can feel it. And so I also envision my cat and animals playing in that garden. So I know she's going to be with me because I've already seen her there. That's part of it. So going in there and installing, take up residency. That's my biggest takeaway for today. And learning how to live in the heart, make the changes and adjustments in this false matrix world where you can be protected and black out into your own interior realm. And with that, I will leave you for today. There's going to be more. I keep receiving more and more experiences and information day by day. I will do another video on the roots, how to literally move there. But first, just take in all of this, and then we'll get into the more practicalities. If you want even deeper, experiences and discussion, because I'm not the authority on this. Nobody is. So sharing ideas, and I can lead you in some of the guidance that I am aware of and receiving through channeling and through Pachacuti directly, that can help. And that is in my Patreon community with the weekly Ascension talks. So come to the link in the description box to join us. Join me over there.